everyone, welcome back to Brews and Books. I'm your host Camille, and today I have a tag for you. It is the Dilemmas of a Book Nerd tag. So I was tagged by Jasmine at Pardon My Imagination, and I will definitely leave her doing the tag down below, and then I will also make sure that the original creator is linked down in the description box. So I today do not have a beer. I am participating in Sober October. So I'm not drinking a ton of alcohol, really. The only alcohol that I have was last week while I was on vacation, and now I am continuing on with not drinking any alcohol. So got kombucha. This is one of my favorite brands. It's Element Kombucha. It's a small batch kombucha brewer out in San Antonio, and they have been one of my favorite kombuchas or kombucha makers since I started trying them probably like a year ago now. Most kombuchas can be very like vinegary, very much like very strong, very potent, especially if there's like ginger in there. It just really tends to be super intense, but these are a little bit more subtle. They don't have a lot of like sweetness. Some of them are strong, but a lot of them for the most part are bearable. But it's really good kombucha. If you can find it, go ahead and try it. I think it's only sold in Texas because it is a small batch, kombucha brewer. So cheers. Nice. So let's get right into the first question. The first question is book storage. How do you store your books? My bookshelf. I store them for the most part on my bookshelf. There are some times where I will read a book and I will lay it in my bed and it stays there for a while. Sometimes I have books on my nightstand and my dresser. They just sit there. So I have books just about scattered everywhere, but I tend to make sure I keep them right back here on my bookshelves. Question 2. Tracking. How do you keep track of what you have read and what you own? For the most part, I use Goodreads. At some point, I was using my bullet journal to do it, and I just got really bored with it because I basically put everything that was on Goodreads into my bullet journal, and a lot of the stuff that I have on Goodreads I have not read, so it was silly. So I have like 2 spreads back like at the beginning of the year, that have just strictly books from Goodreads. So I track them both ways, but I mostly just go to Goodreads and like have my different categories for like if I've read it and I own it, if I read it and it's an audiobook, so on and so on. So Goodreads, please update your app, would be nice. Thanks. Next question, number 3, is borrow. Do you lend your books out? Yes, I do. If someone really wants to read it, sure, why not? I mean, it's cheaper, and then if they really like it, they can buy their own copy. So yeah, I do lend my books out. Question number 4, buying. How do you buy or acquire your books? I, for the most part, buy all my books from, it really doesn't matter to me. I get them at Half Price Books. I get them from Book Outlet. I get them from comic book stores. I get them from Japanese novelty shops. I just about get it from anywhere that I can get my hands on a book. I will probably rarely shop at Barnes and Nobles, but I will definitely shop at Half Price Books online, just to, catch some breaks with some money so I'm not spending a fortune. But yeah, that is usually how I buy my books, and I will buy them used, I will buy them new, whatever I'm feeling, whatever I really want to do. Next question is comments. How do you respond to the comments that say, how do you read so fast? Guess what? I don't get these comments at all, because I am probably a slow to average reader. I just really go at my own pace. It's kind of been a thing of mine. My brain thinks in numbers, so I can probably do an algebra equation in less than 5 minutes, depending on how complicated it is, but it will probably take me more time to read a paragraph than most people. So I'm a little bit slower reader, so I'm not like plowing through books every single month. So it's kind of nice to not hear people ask, how fast, how do you read so much? And I'm like, I don't. Just a little slower in reading. It's fine because I'm still reading. Love it. Next question is next book. How do you pick your next read? Sorry, I'm like posing with it like this as if I'm promoting it. I'm not, but I do encourage people to drink it. This is not sponsored. So how do I pick my next read? So usually I'm definitely a mood reader. So depending on how I'm feeling. So for the month of October, I was like, all right, I want to read everything scary and spooky. So I was able to finally like put together a TBR. Ask me how I'm doing on that TBR. So I was able to put a TBR together, which was grand. But for the most part, if I do decide that I'm ready to pick up another book, I usually start off with picking a graphic novel up, just because they're quicker for me to read and get through. Because I can get through a graphic novel, if we're talking in terms of hours, probably, it doesn't matter. But I usually take about a day to 2 days to read a graphic novel, like, because usually I read it before I go to bed and during my lunch break, which is an hour. So usually I can get it done within 2 days. And then if I like really liked the graphic novel and I'm just like ready to like plow into something else to read, then I will pick up whatever sounds good in terms of like synopsis or like what I'm feeling. So I don't know, it just depends. Moods, they're different. So yeah, that's kind of how my picking goes. Next question. Travel. How do you pick what books you bring on your trip? So the best way that I do that is just kind of what I'm already reading. And if, for example, if the book that I'm reading isn't very interesting and it's kind of like a slow read, I will bring something that's a lot more intense. So I usually bring the book that I'm already reading, or I bring a book that I know will be fast and enjoyable. So while I was on vacation, I brought Zombies vs. Unicorns, and then I also brought a graphic novel, Descenders, with me. And so I finished Descenders while like in a couple of hours, just because I was really intrigued and like really interested in the story. Plus I was laying on a beach, so I mean, what else did I have to do except for, you know, watch the sea and the sand go by. Good times. But usually I pick books that will keep me entertained and keep me focused. Next question. Annotate. Do you write or highlight in your books? Yes and no. Some books I do, some books I don't. I will annotate poetry for the most part, and I'm looking into starting like to write and annotate when I have a book of essays, just because I think it'd be nice to kind of compare perspectives and kind of like put my feedback down, you know, on the page. And I don't see any problem with annotating, because when you're in or at least when I was in high school, we annotated books all the time. And so it was just kind of an important thing, because you were able to jot down like what that thought was, or if you didn't know a word or something like that, you were able to kind of like go in and like take it. So I have no problem with it. I do annotate from time to time. I do not annotate most of my fiction books because it's fiction, and like, yeah, you can have thoughts on it, but I don't know. I just don't do it. But with poetry, starting on essays, definitely will annotate those. Next question, new or backlist? Which do you prefer? New releases or backlists? I like both. I would probably definitely prefer backlists, only because usually I like to read books after they've been like passed through, like hyped and everything. Like people are like, yes, this book, and I'm like, I don't want to read it while you all are reading it, because you get so many different mixed, or you kind of get either a high clump, like a high intensity of good reviews and like a lot of esteemed praise, and then you have the opposite end where you can get a ton of like negative reviews. So there's no balance when a book first comes out. It's just like, it's highly anticipated, everyone wants to read it, and everyone wants to read it then and there. And I don't like doing that because, I don't know, it's not fun. And I don't like following the crowd unless it's like something I'm really, really excited about. But that's not one of them. So I usually like books that are pretty old, so then I can like read it and be like, oh, okay, now I understand like whatever perspectives, like I can understand why people really loved it, and then I can understand why people really didn't like it. I like to have balance. It's always important. Yeah, balance, it's key. Backlist books, put them on my shelf. I'm gonna sidebar myself. The only time I think I would actually have a new book, if it's an anthology. I love anthologies, so I will pick them up like super hot fast. And if it's a graphic novels are so much fun, and like collecting them, just a beaut. I love seeing them on my shelves like every single day. I'm just like, wow, those are really nice. But yeah, that's my sidebar. Next question. Sequels. Do you read books when they are like as they're being released, or wait until an entire series is complete and then read it? I am definitely like pick up one book, read it, and cry a little, wait a little until the next book comes out, because if I wait until the whole entire series is out, then again, hype. People are like super excited about all the books. You hear a ton about it, and then you like have to wait to read all of these books. And so if you're persuaded in any form or fashion, you know, you're going into like the following book with that perspective and that perception of the book. So I don't like doing that. I would rather like pick up the book if it's a new release, read it all the way through, and be like, all right, who else thought blah 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 blah, and then go from there. Just makes more sense to me. Okay, well, that is the end of this tag, Dilemmas of a Book Nerd. Love it. It was very simple. For some reason I thought it was going to be a little bit more like intense, but it's not. But you know, that was fun. If you like this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. If you like seeing content like this from moi, go ahead and subscribe. So, as always, friends, cheers to beer, cheers to books. Bye, y'all.